Hello students, let's get started on lesson 2. In class, I gave you a worksheet that has the exact same lesson as you'll find in the assignment online where you have to enter in your answers. I think it's a good idea to either do the work on the worksheets that I gave you or follow along in a notebook so you can work the problems. In your notebook, put on the title, Unit 5, Lesson 2, and this is Student-Facing Tasks. In the Google Classroom, you'll see it as 8.5.2. 8.5.2. On the worksheet, they wrote the title, Introduction to Functions. Go ahead and put that in your notes, Introduction to Functions. And we're going to start with the first activity. On your worksheet, it is labeled as 2.1, Square Me. But they don't use that name online where you have to enter in your answers. You can see the web page here in my video. It says Part A. Here are some numbers on a list. And the numbers are also on your worksheet. The first question asks, how many different numbers are on the list? So go ahead and circle them. To help you see how many different numbers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are all different numbers. So there are 7 different numbers on the list. None of them are repeated numbers. Okay, but you have to read carefully to see how you're going to enter the answer. It gives you instructions. Do not include units, numbers, in your answer. This is confusing. I think they made these instructions pretty confusing. What they mean by do not include the units of numbers, let me explain. If it were, say, cars, you'd say 7 cars. If it were hot dogs, you'd say 7 hot dogs. But on the list, they are numbers. So don't say 7 numbers. Do not include what it is. Only say how many. So in your answer, you're just going to type the number, but don't write 7 numbers. Just type 7. Go ahead and pause the video and do that right now. And I'm going to go ahead and change it to the student-facing view. Sorry about that. This is what you're going to see. And you're going to have this green bar right here. It tells you right now, before you submitted, you are at 100%. As soon as you submit your answer, if it is correct, you get 100%. If you type in the wrong answer, then you lose points and it goes down to 67%. If you continue typing in the wrong answer, you continue losing points. Finally, you get to 0 points. If you really cannot figure out what the correct answer is, you can click Show Answer and it'll give you help that you need. The correct answer is 7. Now you already know that because we did it together. I circled them on the screen. You saw that there are 7 different answers. Even after it tells you the answer, you still have to type it in correctly to go to the next problem. All right, here's the next problem. Number 2, make a new list containing the squares of all these numbers. I think you better do this on paper or in your notebook. Okay, so the new list containing squares, I'm going to do it in my notebook because it's a good chance to review square numbers. The numbers on the list are 1, -3, -1/2, 3, 2, 1/4, and 0.5. Okay, let's review squaring numbers. So for the first number on the list, 1, if you square it, the notation looks like this. 1 to the power of 2 means 1 squared. But mathematically, that's 1 times 1. And the answer, 1 times 1, that equals 1. So 1 squared is 1. Let me look at the next one now. -3. That's going to be -3 to the power of 2. That means -3 squared. Well, that is -3 times -3. Now you have to remember that a negative number times a negative number gives you a positive number. So -3 times -3 equals 9. If you don't believe me, try it in your calculator. Okay, the next number on the list is -1/2. So that's -1/2 squared, which is -1/2 times -1/2. Go ahead and pause the video and do it on your calculator. Then you can check your answer. Okay, did you do it? Well, I'm pretty good at squaring numbers, and I'm really good at fraction multiplication. I remember that fraction multiplication, you have to just multiply straight across. The numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. So the answer is -1 times -1, which is +1, over 2 times 2, which is 4. The answer is +1/4. Okay, how about 3 squared? 3 squared, the notation is 3 to the power of 2, but that equals 3 times 3, which is 9. Keep going. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which equals 4. 1/4 squared is the fraction 1/4 times the fraction 1/4. And don't forget what I taught you a second ago. When you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. The top numbers get multiplied and the bottom numbers get multiplied. So that's 1 times 1 equals 1, and 4 times 4 equals 16. The answer is 1/16. Okay, then 0.5 squared is 0.5 squared, which is 0.5 times 0.5, and that equals 0.25. Oops, I should have let you do it on your calculator. Go ahead and check my answer. If you don't believe me that it's 0.25, I'll show you real quick. Just as a review, you're used to doing multiplication like this. So then 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 0 is 0, but you add the 2. That number's finished. Then put a 0. 0 times 5 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. You've learned math this way. Count how many decimals. That's 1, 2. So 1, 2. There. See, I got the correct answer right here. But you have to follow the directions on the site to know how to enter your answer. Look at the site. It says here, give your answer in the following format. Number, comma, number, comma, number, comma, with no spaces. Be sure to leave the numbers in the order of the original list. So we're going to enter our answers with no spaces. I'm going to write that on the paper. So that's going to be 1, comma, 9, comma, 1/4, comma, 9, 4, 1/16, and 0.25. So that is the same order as the original list. Each number is separated by commas, and I'll type it in with no spaces. 1, comma, you can see me typing it in on my screen. 9, comma. For 1/4, type it in with a dash. Let me zoom in so you can see it. One dash 4 is 1/4, comma, 9, comma, 4, comma, 1/16 is 1 dash 16, comma, and then 0.25. And I'll check and see. Woohoo! Okay, I typed it in correctly. It gave me 100%, and I can go to the next problem. Now it asks, how many different numbers are on the new list? Do not include numbers, the units numbers in your answer. Okay, let's count how many different numbers. By the way, I already see that there are 2 repeated numbers. 9 and 9 are repeated. Can you find the other repeated number? It is 0.25 and 1/4. You have to remember that 1/4 equals 0.25 in decimals. So those are repeated numbers. So how many different numbers? Only count the different numbers. I'll underline them. 1, 2, 3, don't count the repeat. 4, 5. There's 5 different numbers. I'm not counting the repeated numbers. Don't type in 5 numbers, only type in 5. I got it correct. Explain why the 2 lists do not have the same number of different numbers. So the first list has 7 different numbers. The second list has 5, only 5 different numbers. Well, we squared each item on the original list. How could I have less numbers now? Any ideas? It's because when you square a negative number, you get a positive number. So the square of the negatives is the same as when you square the positive. Let me give you an example. Negative 1/2 squared. Remember, a negative times a negative equals a positive answer. And if you had positive 1/2 squared, it would give you the same answer. So there are less numbers on the second list. Go ahead and reach over to your computer and type that in. I'll write it on my paper. When you square negative numbers, you get the same as squaring the positive number. Okay, you can type that in or write your own answer.